Welcome back to the Noclip podcast. This is episode 78. I'm your host, Jesse Garasha. Danny's still on vacation. We still miss him, but I'm joined by Frank Howley. Frank, how's it going?
Good. I'm here. I'm alive. I'm happy. I'm radiated from Anime Expo. It's always a pleasure to be here.
It's always great to have you. And we're also joined by Jeremy Jane.
Hello, everyone. Frank, I'm excited to hear about your Hunter S. Thompson-esque reporting from Anime Expo.
Yeah, did you film anything, or do we get to see any clips?
So I have to ingest the photos, but I think I took about 500 photographs, probably even more. So I'll be editing a slideshow of that.
Can't wait.
Yeah, so yeah, we can dive into it deeper. But I'm excited.
For sure, yeah. But before we get started, I just want to give a quick happy belated Canada Day to all the Canadians out there. Happy belated America Day. What do you call it? Independence Day?
We call it America Day.
America Day?
It's funny, in my head, it's called 4th of July. Like that. It's like the one holiday where where the date is so important. For me, it's 4th of July. What is the actual term? Is it Independence Day?
Independence Day, baby. It's when you gotta remember that the British could come at any minute and take us back.
Oh, I thought it was when you punched those aliens in that one movie.
Welcome to Earth.
That's what it's about now. We switched over.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it was about the British, and then that had to happen on the same day. So now we celebrate that instead.
It just happened to line up perfectly.
Yeah.
But if you'd like to support this 100% ad-free podcast, hear more alien punching stories, more Independence Day nonsense, fund our documentaries, and get access to a ton of bonuses like videos, bonus podcast episodes, access to the Discord, you can do so at patreon.com/noclip. While you're there, you can also become one of our Battle Pass holders, which includes Cody Krieger, Aaron L. White, Forrest Pruitt, Cameron Ladd, George Zirkotis, Prey, and Tohir Tiliev. All right, those are the names. We appreciate all your support, everything that you do for us to help us make all this cool stuff that we're doing, all the cool stuff that we've announced, all the cool stuff that's coming in the next couple weeks, next couple months. We've got some cool stuff brewing in the background. Jeremy Jane, especially. What's going on with Jane Dev?
It's going good. I definitely put it on the back burner for a while because we had the LA trip for multiple projects. We had a secret other trip that I'm not allowed to talk about at risk of being shot by the NDA police. But yeah, lots of good stuff on the Noclip side, and then Jane Dev is going good. I've kind of been easing back into it now that I'm kind of like more regularly home now. And yeah, I made some cool like procedurally generated cityscapes this week. So I've got like, when I loaded all the footage into my timeline for Jane Dev episode 2, I had like 52 hours of dev time captured that I had to edit.
Oh.
So I might have brought too many ingredients to the kitchen, but there's a lot of good stuff. It's gonna be really fucking cool. I think I've made a lot of progress on my my like visual stuff too, like kind of getting into like a PlayStation 1 kind of aesthetic. So I'm excited to talk about that. And that actually, it's been kind of perfectly aligned with what I'm editing right now for Noclip, which is the interview with Lilith, who created the Bloodborne PSX demake. And I just want to go on record saying that I should not be allowed to edit this documentary because I am a very biased pro demake, pro PS1 graphics person. And to kind of like tease the Bloodborne PSX doc, there's a really good section where Lilith talks about how people have an unconscious assumption that as we move forward with games, things get better and better and better, and that it's important to kind of like re-examine older tropes of game design, basically, like older things that people used to do, like co-op and, things like that. And this also dovetails nicely into the stuff we talked about last week with Silent Hill, and how Silent Hill's kind of lack of fidelity is one of the things that makes it scariest. And so, yeah, it's like, I feel like I'm in like a simulation where I'm like talking about how we need PlayStation 1 style game design. And then it's like, oh yeah, for work, could you edit this thing about how that's actually true?
You can't escape it. It's PS1 time, PS1 on the brain, PS1 for work. It's great.
Hell yeah, dude.
So you brought it up earlier, Frank. I really wanted to talk to you about this Anime Expo. So you were there. You were live, you were in person, but a lot of us online, we were looking at videos coming out of what happened and pictures coming out of Anime Expo of just a sea of human being, this cramped, person-filled exhibition. It looked like a nightmare. Were you able to avoid that? What was your experience like at Anime Expo?
Yeah, so it's funny. Anime Expo always gives me anxiety, like the idea of Anime Expo, because it is at the biggest anime convention I think in North America. I think like that's just where it is. And so I have so many friends every year who come out of town. So like being in SoCal, it's like, okay, I'm not gonna not go to Anime Expo. Thankfully, not thankfully, but COVID happened, and so Anime Expo was gone for like 3 years.
Not thankfully.
Yeah,
to be clear,
not thankfully. Yeah, not thankfully, but like in a Curb Your Enthusiasm type situation of like, it's COVID. I can't go to Anime Expo. Oh, I had a card. Now, they put the festival back on, and I use the term festival because it is like Woodstock, just in terms of the chaos and the kind of lack of enforcement at Anime Expo. So I was there all 4 days. We got a hotel in downtown LA. As doors opened, I think it's Friday morning was the first day, the fire marshal had to close down, it stopped letting more people into the building. And so there was the viral video that went around of just the LA Convention Center completely jam-packed with people. Thankfully, it seems like it dispersed and people are able to get into the convention. It takes hours to get into the convention. They did have a COVID vaccination step where a separate offsite tent, you have to go and get your vaccine stuff verified. So I appreciate that there is that extra step. So once you endure that line, then there's like 4 different lines to get into the building every day. And so my friends and I would devise different strategies of how are we getting in. So sometimes we'd have people run out early and then we jump in line with them. We try to look for back ways. We tried doing something really sneaky where I realized on like the second or third day that if you park in a certain convention center parking lot, there is an entrance for people who use that parking lot. So we like walked into the parking lot, try to get to this exit, but you need a certain premier badge. So it's always us. It's like playing a Hitman game of trying to figure out what's the easiest way of getting into the convention center. We eventually endured lines. I had a friend do a thing called the fruit cart trick. And I'm going to reveal the fruit cart trick, and feel free to use this next year.
Okay.
Outside the LA Convention Center and the crypto.com arena, there's hundreds. Yeah, it was weird constantly seeing crypto.com everywhere. Outside the LA Convention Center, there are hundreds of hot dog carts and just street vendors who are also right alongside the line. So I had a friend do the fruit cart trick, which is he would get in line for a fruit cart and be like, how much is this? Oh, it's $10. No, thanks. And then he would turn his back and just walk back, get in the line as it's moving. So that's how they got in. I forgot how we got in other ways. We waited usually. It wasn't that bad. But once you're inside, it's still extremely crowded and humid. There was a tweet of people checking the CO2 levels, and they were like dangerously high or low, whatever the bad number was. So yeah, even going through Anime Expo, we would only go in for like 2 or 3 hours at a time, and then we just have to retreat back to our hotel. It's like going into it's like stock or going into the center zone of radiation. Like it is so overwhelming. But focusing on the positives, incredible cosplays. Like I love Anime Expo because it feels like half of people are in cosplay. I did see a neon white cosplay, probably the world's first neon white cosplay, which I was really impressed with.
Yeah.
There was a full Pikmin group, like a dozen dudes just dressed up as Pikmin in the different colors, running around and chasing other giant cosplays. Giant full body Gundam suits walking around, almost looking like Gwar performers. I'm trying to think of some other highlights. So it's just fun running around taking pictures as if I was like a war photographer and just snapping all the shots. My favorite thing at Anime Expo and probably any convention. So Anime Expo is divided in 2 floors. The top is the exhibitor hall, which is a lot of bigger companies, a lot of marketing, some merchandise, clothing. The bottom level is Artist Alley, and that is where it's all independent artists selling fandom merchandise. So I actually ended up buying a lot of cool stuff at Artist Alley, like socks, t-shirts. I got a giant Berserk poster that an incredibly talented artist painted. So yeah, I had fun going around, and it was always good seeing friends, and just taking photos of cosplay, which I tweeted out a bunch, and then I'm gonna make a big YouTube slideshow. The one thing that we waited in line for was the Chainsaw Man panel. So Chainsaw Man is I feel like the hottest manga of the last year, and everyone was excited for this panel because we were assuming it was gonna be the world premiere of footage or something. That was a Woodstock scenario where it was like hundreds of people trying to crowd the single file line entrance and like a dozen security staff yelling into megaphones like back out, back out. Meanwhile, I'm just sneaking walking in with my camera, taking pictures of it while also sneaking into the line. So we get in and it's like 30 minutes of Q&A with the staff of the show, and everyone is anticipating like, okay, I'm going to show the trailer, I'm going to show an episode, what's it going to be? And then like there's like a deafening response of, well, we wanted to show you something today, but it's not quite ready. And you could hear this like this massive bummer wave pass over. Even someone behind me was like, "Are you serious?" So it was like after
Where's
that,
our free previews?
yeah, it was like, man, and we even had to do the Comic-Con thing where you sit through boring panels before the thing. But that's the convention experience. I adore conventions. If there's a local anime con near you, please go. Let us know if you go to conventions or anything like that. But yeah, it was fun being back at the LA Convention Center, which, yeah. So I love conventions. The next conventions I'll be going to is Anime Matsuri in Houston at the end of the month, and then EVO. Audrey's going to be doing Artist Alley at EVO, so I'm excited to go. And that's going to be even more video game focused. But yeah, I had a good time at Anime Expo. It was fun taking pictures. And there's a chance if you're listening to this, there's so many people at Anime Expo. Maybe you were there too or knew someone who went. But yeah, it was a good time.
Nice.
Awesome. I think we should start a petition to change the name of Anime Expo to Weebstock.
Yeah, that's good. Honestly, I'm surprised they haven't tried something like that yet.
That joke would have been funnier 3 minutes ago, but I felt rude interrupting.
No, you're good. Maybe I'll take it. I'll slot it in where it's supposed to go.
Oh,
yeah, just edit it in to make it really good timing.
Exactly.
I didn't do cosplay because it is so like crowded and hot. I did bring my Slipknot mask, so I would put on my Slipknot mask occasionally. It's so hard to breathe already that I was like, fuck this. But I did put it on for some photo ops. But I did see someone else did a full like costume, Corey Taylor, with the red Slipknot jumpsuit, the Slipknot mask. So I was like, oh my God, someone else is doing my cosplay. Thank you. I got pictures with them. Someone else was also Ghostface, like from Scream, but as a maid. So a sexy Ghostface maid, which was, yeah, amazing. And then my cosplay was a 2007 anime convention attendee. I just walked around with a bootleg yaoi paddle, which are now banned at conventions because people run around smacking each other. But I was able to sneak a yaoi paddle in. And so people were just stopping me like, can I take a picture of your yaoi paddle? All right. So there you go. I'm bringing yaoi paddles back.
Yeah, bringing back the thing that was banned. Hey, you were doing some illegal things at Anime Expo. I saw you taking photos of things that said like no pictures or no photos on them.
I'm like, I don't know what it is. There's like this prankerism, this juvenile like delinquent. I love being a juvenile delinquent at conventions. Like I'm just a teenager. But anytime there'd be a poster of something that said no pictures or no photos, I had to take a picture of it because I don't know why. It's like prompting me to.
Yeah, it's like benign deviance where it's like it's funny because you're doing the wrong thing, but it's harmless, so it's funny.
What are they going to do?
Yeah.
Charge you for that?
Yeah, so I got a group photo of my friends and I in front of a giant no photos poster. Anytime there's posters all throughout the convention that says no sitting, please. It says please, no sitting. The fire marshal wants these areas clear. And Anime Expo is exhausting, so people are always sitting and lying on the floor. So I have like a dozen photographs of like people and families sitting in front of these giant no sitting signs. And it's like John Wilson stuff. It's like so stupid and funny, and I adore it.
Nice. Well, I'm glad you had a good time. I mean, it's good that you enjoyed yourself despite all the, pictures and videos and everything coming out of the event. I think the last time I went to a convention was probably summer of last year. We went to Anime Expo up here. I think it's called Fan Expo is what we went to. Yeah, it's not as good as the one in California because it's in Toronto, but it was a good time. There was a lot of like Funko Pops up on the walls and comic books. And it wasn't really the peak of COVID, but I mean, it was still definitely a huge concern. They did COVID testing stuff. They didn't do testing, but they checked to see if you had your vaccines. Everyone was wearing masks, almost everyone. But some of the vendors were a little pissy because they were stuck in these hot rooms talking to nerds for hours wearing these uncomfortable masks and stuff. It's like, okay, yeah, but there's still a pandemic. Anyways, we had to go down these like long tunnels, drive paths, lanes to get down into this underground parking garage where the event was being held. And it was like super awkward and cramped. And I know it kind of seems like society has let things die down a little bit. So, I mean, I'm glad you're able to still have a good time at an event like this. Although I don't know if I could possibly ever again be in a room with that many people in it at once.
Yeah. And then like we do have COVID tests here. We're okay. Like everyone was, masking up during the thing, but like, Yeah, it's. I definitely say like I like going to conventions, but definitely in this era, like please exercise caution. Even like 2 weeks right before Anime Expo, Anime Expo posted a thing saying, you know what, never mind, no vaccinations required. Massive blowback on Twitter, and they did reinstate it. Yeah, so I guess exercise caution if you are going to conventions.
Yeah, for sure. If you're going somewhere that has rules, make sure you're following them to the best of your ability. And if they don't have rules, make up your own and try to follow those as well as you can.
Wear a full astronaut suit.
Yes.
Wear the whole helmet and everything.
There were like several Among Us cosplayers
Yes.
where they would just wear the giant like Among Us inflatable thing, and it's like, oh, that's perfect for COVID. You're in a giant spacesuit. There was also a Patrick Star from SpongeBob costume, like a giant inflatable Patrick Star, which like I think one of the best cosplays of the show because that is like it's so outside the realm of anime. It's just like I don't know. I adore it. Like conventions are fun because people are just dressing up. It's like a giant Halloween party.
Yeah,
for
Halloween
nerds.
in
Like,
summer. It's gorgeous. I love it.
Next time I get on a plane, I'm gonna wear an inflatable Among Us costume, full body. Which I think honestly, that's probably the not to be obvious with this joke, but that's the most suspicious thing you could wear on an aircraft. They're like, this guy is definitely a terrorist.
The cutest interaction was a giant guy, some dude in a giant inflatable Among Us costume taking pictures, and a 5-year-old little boy wearing an Attack on Titan like bodysuit,
yeah.
like where it's like gored skin. This little kid, I know he's sus.
Oh my
like,
god!
oh my god! Oh my god!
That's really cute.
Yeah, it was like holy
Oh,
crap.
man.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Precious.
Jeremy, you were telling me over the weekend you were playing through with your buddy this Cuphead DLC. What's going on with that?
Yes, the
Yeah.
delicious last course.
Delicious. A delicious last course. What'd you think?
And a delicious last course it was.
Yes.
So I played Cuphead like when it came out. So, like what, four years and change ago now, something like that. I can't even remember what year.
I think
it was a long time ago. An ancient relic of a game at this point. I think it was 1930 when it came out.
2017, but it feels like 1930. I agree.
Yeah. Well, the art style would have you believe. First of all, the DLC is fan-fucking-tastic. It's really fun. I love the base game of Cuphead. It is one of my favorite games of the last 5 years, probably. It's like it's a game that fires on all fucking cylinders. It's like it's hard, but you want to see more, not only because the gameplay is fun, but because the art style is beautiful, the music is incredible, the characters are great. Like every aspect of it just makes you want to push forward and persevere, despite it being a difficult game. The funny thing about Delicious Last Course is that it difficulty wise, like it kind of just picks up where it left off. Like it's hard, which is kind of funny having not played it for that many years, because it really is just like, oh yeah, you remember all this stuff, right? It just throws you back into it. I played online with a friend of mine through Steam. I'm trying to remember what Steam's screen share thing is. Whatever it's called. But it was, so we were having trouble with it because of latency issues. Cuphead is definitely not a game that you can play with any degree of latency.
No.
And when you play co-op, it makes every boss fight appropriately difficult. So having a second player who's laggy is almost more of a hindrance than it is a help. But we tinkered with the screen share settings and used a different piece of software to do it, and got it down and basically like crunched the resolution down. So we were joking that it was the original 1930s resolution of 720 by 468 or whatever. But yeah, played probably about half of it. Gonna play the rest of it later this week. But I loved it. Yeah, Jesse, you played it as well, right?
I did, yeah. So I played it on Sunday. I played the first little bit of it, and then I was like, okay, I need to sit down. I need to actually play this, because playing a Cuphead level, boss, whatever, is very challenging to go back to. But yeah, I sat down with it. I ripped through it in like 2 hours, which feels bad. For anyone who doesn't know, the Cuphead DLC Delicious Last Course was announced in 2018. So yeah, they announced this 4 years ago, and it finally came out last month on June 30th at the end of the month. Developed by Studio MDHR, like the original game was. Canadian studio, actually. I think they're based out of Oakville, with some remote members across the globe, which is pretty cool. They're like down the street from me. And I mean, yeah, this is the expansion sort of thing to the original game. It's more bosses, more things going on for you to play through, new items. And this time you're playing as Cuphead and Mugman, but there's a third character who was introduced in the original game called Chalice Girl, and now you can play as her. And that's done through this charm that you get. Like the game has abilities that you can select, different weapons and different specials that you can use. And then there are charms. And in this new DLC, the charm that you get, that's a cookie, which is like, that's the central narrative conceit for this DLC, is there's this baker who's trying to bake a pastry so that you can save Chalice Girl and make her alive again. Doesn't really matter. Point is, I had a lot of fun with it, but I finished it in like 2 hours. And around the launch of the DLC, I started to see a bunch of takes on Twitter, because that's what Twitter is. It's just a collection of takes that makes a point about how, like, we spend all this time creating something. We could spend years, 4 years in this case, or, you know, even here at Noclip, right? Making a doc can take months or a year sometimes just to get it out there for everyone to see, and then they consume it in the runtime. And it's like, I don't know, that bugged me, because it feels so perfect, and I finished it in 2 hours, and it's like, it's weird to come back to such a challenging game, but I got through it so quickly that I almost feel like I didn't consume everything properly. Like I missed out on something. I know I didn't, and I had a really good time with it, and it was fun in the period that I played it in. But I just, it's just so strange to think about 4 years put into this beautiful thing, and then it just is over like that. All that aside, though, it was really fantastic. I think it looks just as good as the first one did, if not better in some cases. It sounds amazing. The music is, to me, better this time around, which feels like hard to pull off, but they really did it. Such a phenomenal, great addition of content to an already really fantastic game. But Jeremy, was there anything that really stuck out to you in this that felt like particularly above the original Cuphead, or does this kind of just feel like how you remember the first one feeling?
It's hard to say, just because it's been a while for me. I had a similar moment, though, as the last time I played Cuphead. So my friend who I play these games with is like one of my best friends. He lives back in Boston. Haven't seen him in a long time, but we often kind of just like connect through games, and we both have kind of an appreciation for like little aesthetic touches like that. We both make music and different types of art and stuff. So he's the kind of friend where we'll just like pause on a menu and there's a good song and just listen to the song. So Cuphead is the perfect game for that, because we can, you know, like we'll do like a dummy run on a boss when we're not planning to beat it, just to kind of like pause and appreciate the animation and stuff. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if Delicious Last Course is better than the base game or not, but it's at least as good, which is like
that's the watermark.
It's
right?
a pretty high bar to
exactly.
clear. Yeah, exactly. It's just I mean, I try to imagine like a world in which Cuphead didn't look or sound as good, but played equally as good, and I still think it would be a fantastic game. Like, I think mechanically it's just a brilliant game, but the aesthetics give so much more to the feel of it. Like it really feels like you're playing an old cartoon, which obviously is the conceit of the game, but like, I don't know, they pull it off so well.
Totally. Yeah. It feels like it's a feast for the eyes, a treat for the eyes, if you will. Like, it makes all of the failures that you're experiencing while playing the game, because it is so challenging, almost feel less painful, because you get to look at this beautiful game. Like, it doesn't even feel real to play this game sometimes because of how good it looks. Like, it feels like you're watching an orchestrated cartoon.
Yeah. It also, like, it has like its aesthetic style is so distinct, and that's one of my favorite things about it. Sometimes when I play like, I'm not trying to, you know, like pick on any particular type of game, but sometimes when I play like contemporary AAA games that are all like incredibly beautiful and like high poly, and like the textures are like immaculate, they all have kind of the same aesthetic flavor to me, or something.
Yeah.
Like they're all incredibly gorgeous, you know, something like Death Stranding or something like one of the Horizon games or whatever. They're all like immaculately beautiful, but they all kind of feel like different variations on that same type of like perfect AAA contemporary, like super beautiful graphics, whereas like Cuphead feels so distinctly itself. Like there's nothing that feels like Cuphead to me. So yeah, I think that's part of the aesthetic appeal for me, is not just that it like pulls off what it's going for so well, but that it's actually like it's trying for something that no other game does. It feels like its own kind of aesthetic experience.
Yeah, you know, now that you mention it, there is this like section of the DLC where there's this Knight's Run kind of element to it, where it's a series of these challenges where you can't shoot or anything, and you just have to dash to deal damage. And the thing that ties it all together is this 3D castle that's in the background of the regular 2D elements that you see in the main Cuphead game. The characters walking around, and there's this king that's kind of giving you these challenges. And I don't know if it's a 3D model. I don't know if it's like a physical set that they 3D printed or something, but it looks fantastic despite being this completely separate visual style. I think the game, I think this DLC, I think Cuphead in general is really good at taking this old style, making it its own, but also finding ways to add distinct new elements that feel like they belonged there the whole time. Like this castle felt like it belonged in Cuphead the second I saw it. It did not feel out of place at all, which is probably a really hard triumph to pull off in something like this.
Cuphead is perfect as what it is, but
Yes.
as I was playing Delicious Last Course, I was like, fuck, I really want a Hollow Knight style Metroidvania with Cuphead's
Yes.
aesthetic sensibilities and mechanical, the mechanics.
Yeah, that'd be great. It's kind of actually, Hollow Knight's not that far removed from the animation style of Cuphead, right?
Yeah, it's not totally dissimilar. Yeah, it's got kind of its own kind of art style that's reminiscent of hand drawn animation, like a different era of animation, but kind of in the same ballpark for sure.
Man, Silk Song's coming soon. Hopefully, fingers crossed. It's a good time to be a fan of platform shooters, fighters, games in general.
Hell yeah, dude. I've been playing a bunch of old games, obviously, as I'm always ranting about, but I was playing Mario the Lost Levels.
Oh, nice.
Super old title. The one it's on Super Mario All-Stars. And
is that not the real Mario 2? Right?
Oh
Yeah.
Yeah. And it didn't come out in North America or something. Yeah, and it's funny going back and playing something like that at the time was considered this, super tight platformer, because it felt sludgy and weird after playing a bunch of Cuphead. And I was like, God damn, it's funny that, the top of the industry at the time, if you compare it to just, Cuphead is kind of a standard as an indie game. It's not this little tiny indie game or whatever, but it's just funny that it's damn, this used to be the best there was, and now there's just so many cool platformers coming out.
You play Celeste and you're like, oh, Mario 2, more like Mario Poo. Boo.
Yeah. Can Mario wave dash? I didn't think so.
Yeah, well, he can if you're playing Super Smash Brothers Melee.
It's true. That's true. He's learned some new tricks.
Is Cuphead Xbox? I feel like it is. Is it not? I can't remember anymore.
I think originally, it was Xbox and PC, or was it Xbox first? At this point, I really can't remember.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. It's so funny because I remember the hype for Cuphead was it felt like a decade. It felt like Xbox announced it in 2014. I remember going to E3 2016 or 2017, asking the devs when's this coming out? And then 3 years later it came. I don't know. So it's such a long cycle. I think at this point it's on everything.
Yeah, well, you
right?
can grab it now and grab the Cuphead DLC now on every platform: PlayStation, Xbox. It's on the Switch, Neo Geo, Steam Deck. I don't know what else.
Play it on your
what else might it be
pacemaker.
on? Yeah, pacemaker.
Played on the McDonald's menu.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude.
Actually, I don't know why that reminded me, but you could play, for whatever reason, Cuphead is on the Tesla, the Teslas. You can play it on the dashboard thing. Somehow that happened.
Listen, I'm not some sort of Tesla fanboy at all. Quite the opposite, actually. But I do have to say, if you're gonna die, doing it playing Cuphead going 90 miles an hour is a sick way to do it.
I like the idea of a meta Twisted Metal where it's everyone's driving a Tesla, but inside their cars they're playing the Twisted Metal on the screen.
That's how you drive the car. It's like an alternate reality kind of thing, or a mixed reality thing.
Yeah, that just be a character. If they did a new Twisted Metal, someone's character is they drive a Tesla, and their Tesla has apps that kill you. That's it. That's what we just solved it. Yeah,
like a tech bro character in Twisted Metal.
Calypso gets way into crypto. It's
yeah.
All right, Sweet Tooth, the winner of this tournament gets 100, I don't know, twisted coin or whatever.
This is out of left field, but you guys ever think about how turns of phrase like that are short for phrases that don't make sense? Like tech bro is short for technology brother, which is way funnier. The other one this has been haunting me for 2 weeks. So everyone cover your ears for 30 seconds if you don't want to learn about something extremely cursed. But dad bod is short for daddy body. and I don't like that.
I like that less.
I like Technology Brother way more.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, like, we say gamer as shorthand for video gamer, and calling someone a video gamer, it just sounds so condescending. Or are you a video gamer?
Yeah, it sounds childish. You a video gamer?
It's like, yeah.
That sounds like something that the judge would say as they were sentencing
This video
you. They're
gamer,
like,
this glue sniffer,
this this dope smoking video gamer.
Yeah. Dope smoking video gamer. Whoa.
Oh, that's my new gamer
new
tag.
YouTube channel, new crew series. Dope
Honestly,
smoking video
that
gamer.
would be fucking good.
Yeah, hell yeah. That's awesome. It's just it's like me in character, but it's basically
Yeah, just
it's not
fat
really
one's
much of a
like, yeah, dude, welcome guys. This is my new show where I show you what I'm like behind the camera.
What's up, bros? What's up, Technology Brothers?
Yeah,
Fuck's
dope
sake.
smoking video gamer is now one of the characters in Twisted Coin or whatever.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Oh God. Speaking of Xbox or we were speaking of it briefly before we just started going off. Frank, you've got something listed here in the podcast doc that says Project Xbox, and then you've got 4 games listed here. You've got Shrek, Crimson Skies, Mark Echo, and Dynasty Warriors 4. What are you doing?
Okay, so I'm calling this Project Xbox. This is going to be my Mount Everest. This is very indulgent. This is a total indulgent project, nothing to do with Noclip. Although I feel like it is going to enhance my knowledge. This is going to be like my master's project, my thesis, if you will. Right. Project Xbox, it's known here that I adore Xbox. For me, Xbox represents, like the original Xbox, represents the end of the Attitude Era. When the Xbox was announced, The Rock was on stage. Checking in jabronis at the SmackDown Hotel and signing them up for Xbox with Bill Gates. And there's always been something very cheeky and funny to me about Xbox. And like Phil Spencer even retweeted something where like they've now completely turned their brand around. They're super accessible. Like Xbox is genuinely kicking ass right now. But original Xbox just represents like this like G4 snarky dude bro, like juvenile asshole. Like I don't know what it is. It's so funny to me. So I do enjoy it, and there's sincerity in it. But Project Xbox is a new experiment where I'm going to be playing and ranking every single Xbox game. Yes. I had a friend who hooked me up with a modern Xbox, so I have an HDMI. I can have it, plug into an HDMI, things like that.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, so I can now play any game I want. I have all these copies I've been hunting games down at Book Off, picking up weird Xbox games. And so, I feel like if I ever bring this up on the Noclip podcast, it's to highlight gems or maybe just forgotten games. Because I feel like a lot of games of the early 2000s generation have been like remastered, ported, or you can play them today. But there's a lot of really weird games locked away on this console. And so part of this project is going to be digging up old games and talking about them. And then if people are listening to us, let us know. Feel free to like email or comment like if there's any Xbox games you want assessed, or if you have any favorite Xbox gems. And I'd love to ask everyone here too what your favorite Xbox games are. But the first 4 I played, and now theoretically there's a ranking order. But the first game I played was a launch game for the Xbox, Shrek. Which I didn't even realize like that was a launch title. B, that there was even a Shrek video game. I mean, you imagine every family film gets some licensed game, but it was a launch title. Shrek itself is like a platformer, kind of like Mario 64, where you pick a fairy tale level and you run around burping and farting and completing the objectives. It's not a good game. It's the lowest on the list so far, but I did play it. I also found out Todd McFarlane also did character designs for unique Shrek characters.
What?
So if you, yeah. So I haven't played deep enough into the game, but on the cover of Shrek, it says featuring original character designs by Todd McFarlane.
Oh, fuck?
Yeah, so I don't know. Part of me wants to keep playing Shrek. There is a dedicated burp button. There's a dedicated fart button. You can fart to dispense gas, and then you can burp flames to make explosions. One thing that's notable about the first Shrek game is there's no voice acting for Shrek. So you expect it to be like, my donkey, but there's no voice acting. So kind of a disappointing title to start this project with, but on the other side, so on the other side of the spectrum, I had never played Crimson Skies before. Oh my God, this game is amazing.
What is that? I've never heard of it. Or
Yeah,
I don't
I've heard of
remember
it, but never
anyways.
played it.
So Crimson Skies was always heralded as like, that's like before Halo 2, it was like, this is the game to play on Xbox Live. It's a dogfighting game that takes place, I almost want to call it like almost in like a BioShock type universe where it's like, it's not I guess cloudpunk, is that a term? Like it's
Yeah,
almost
okay.
steampunky, but like it's like Captain of Tomorrow, I forget the name, whatever. But it's kind of like yeah, this has this like adventurism that like early like Spielberg or George Lucas serials, like 1930s, like the Shadow type stuff. Crimson Skies is a dogfighting game where you're running around doing missions and collecting bounties and just shooting planes in the sky, and it feels like Uncharted, like it's this adventure game. So Crimson Skies, like I was like, I booted it up, like let's check this out. It's really great, and I'm sure people listening to us probably have played this. I completely missed the boat, and I regret now never like having gotten to play this game during its peak Xbox Live experience. I don't even know if I can even access local multiplayer. But if you have stories of Crimson Skies, let me know. I want this is like. My dad is really obsessed with World War II veterans. Like he served in the military in like the 70s, and like he loves reading stories of like World War II and soldiers just throughout America's history. But now I'm like, oh my god, I need to hear these gamer stories of the battles I missed out on. So if you have great stories of Crimson Skies, what was it like? I gotta research it. So Crimson Skies, incredible gem. I think it's on Game Pass. Download it, play it. Really, like it's really great. Another game I experimented, which I had never played before, is Mark Echo's Getting Up, which is a cross between, I would say, a cross between Jet Set Radio and like a beat 'em up. It's a beat 'em up.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a beat 'em up where you play like a graffiti artist, and you're just tagging your city, but you're also beating up rival graffiti artists, and you're like taking their tags and
shit.
spraying them. And it's got like crazy voice acting in it. It has a huge cast of artists and musicians. And I only played a little bit of it. I think I'm gonna keep playing Mark Echo, but that's a weird, unique gem that is like I think locked away on the console. It might be on Steam too, but I'm curious if anyone had played Mark Echo's Getting Up. And then at the end of my night of experimenting, I still have hundreds of games to go, but I loaded up one of my all-time favorites, Dynasty Warriors 4, which oh my gosh, and I think this is a good question also to lead with, where it's kind of weird for me these days to play a game without some broader objective to it. Usually it's like for work, or even like, oh, I'm going to get an achievement or do this. But when I started playing Dynasty Warriors 4, it's like this zen where it's like, I don't care about anything else right now. Yeah, I'm just going to grind this. I'm going to level up your shit done. I'm going to go beat up that guy and get my attack up. Okay. And like, it's like calling to me. I want to play more, even though like there's no leaderboards, there's no stats, there's no like paycheck in it.
Extrinsic motivator.
Yeah,
You're
it's just
I
like,
want to play this.
yeah,
I wanna
this is like for me, this is where Dynasty Warriors peaked in like 2004, like or whenever this was, and it's like, can they remaster this? I just want to play this. And like Jeremy, you're someone I feel like is very good in Zen at just playing games for the joy of it, and like also experimenting with all these, like you just went through all these PS1 JRPGs. But yeah, I'm curious if there's like a game like that for you guys where, oh, I don't know, it's so weird for me to like let go and just enjoy something. But that was a weird state of Zen I hit with Dynasty Warriors 4.
That's what I've been experiencing with playing a lot of these PS1 games. Like I'm still playing Xenogears, as I've mentioned a couple podcasts now. I'm probably about I think I'm like halfway through it. I think it's about 80 hours long. But I'm probably like, I think I'm 30 something hours into it. And yeah, it feels really good to just like it takes a little bit of forcing yourself to, I mean, this is the same with anything. It takes a little bit of forcing myself to sit down and watch a movie or read a book or play a game or something. But there is something very, like you said, Jesse, like intrinsically motivating about just like playing a game or experiencing a piece of media for its own sake. And yeah, like Xenogears has been so fucking cool for me, because it's like I don't know anyone else who's playing it. I don't know a lot of people who played it back in the day, so it's not like it's this social experience like when a new game comes out and you can appreciate it with other people. There's no like the only thing that's driving me to play it is just the pure enjoyment of playing it, and so it kind of has the same feeling of like being in the middle of a really good book, where it's just like a nice kind of piece of punctuation that becomes part of your day. But yeah, it's nice. Yeah, I highly recommend if people have like, if there's any games that are on your backlog that you've just been putting off playing, just like go for it. Even if it doesn't sound like as good as contemporary games or whatever, you should just kind of like dive into it. Also,
Fuck yeah.
I have to mention Mark Echo's game. I've never played it, but from your description of it, it's very funny that the game is about petty crime of doing graffiti, but then in the process of doing the secondary activity is committing a felony of beating the shit out of people. Because it's like if the cops show up, they're like, all right, well, the graffiti we would have let slide, but you beat this man to death. Like,
I only played like the first 2 levels, but it's like, this is such a weird, I mean, but Jet Set Radio is kind of the same thing. You're beating up other gang, like, yeah, it's I don't know. I like give me more vandalism beat 'em ups. It's a weird hybrid, but it's pretty dope.
I also have to say that Xenogears is like, I obviously won't spoil anything because I want people to play it because I think it's like genuinely. I said this on a previous podcast, but it feels to me like I'm playing Final Fantasy VII again for the first time as a kid. Like it's got that. It's late '90s SquareSoft. The story started out as a Final Fantasy script. Like it's got all the tropes that you'd want out of Final Fantasy, but the politics of Xenogears are so fucking cool because it's this world where these 2 countries are at war and there's like a private military corporation who's part of it as well, but you just constantly end up, you're like a character who hates fighting, who constantly ends up fighting for the amusement of like the aristocrats. And I think that's the funniest trope, that it's just like, you're like, I won't hurt anyone, and then it's like, oh, but all these rich people need you to do it so that they can enjoy it. You're like, all right, well, I'll do it just this once, so then we're never again, and it just keeps happening, and it's so fucking funny. But it is a, I don't know. I like it's funny to contrast with. I'm also playing Persona 5, kind of like slowly in the background at the time, or at the moment, and it's like Persona 5 has maturity in its narrative, but all of the maturity is kind of like dealing with emotional problems and like exploitation by other people. But the sort of like base moment-to-moment experience of Persona 5 is this more you're like a schoolboy in Tokyo, and it's kind of like about like hanging out with your friends at the coffee shop and stuff, and like the brunt of the narrative of the writing is kind of these like lighter, no, it's not juvenile, but it's kind of like it simulates being like a young person or whatever, and it's kind of refreshing to like play an old JRPG where it's like, what if the world was at war and we had to kill God? And it's like that that's the joke. People say JRPGs are about like dethroning God. Always. And whatever. But like, holy shit, it's like, I think we need to do more like politics and killing God. I'm pretty into the like weird Nietzschean shit that's going on in Xenogears.
You got to play Triangle Strategy, man.
Oh yeah,
you got to fucking play that game, dude.
Okay, cool. That's next on my list then.
Yeah, you're gonna love it. Oh. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything like that for me. I feel like I play a lot of games, like Frank said, kind of just for work, which is kind of a bummer, and it's been like that for years. But also, there is stuff that I'll play that I just like won't record, and I think the ones for me is always the Legend of Zelda games. I haven't played any of them, really. Like, I played The Link Between Worlds, I played Ocarina and Twilight Princess earlier this year or last year, and that's kind of it. But every time I go to hop into one and I'll play through it all the way through, I'll record it just because like I like to have footage of stuff like that because it's pretty useful for the stuff that I do. But man, those fucking games, they pull you in.
Yeah. So you haven't played,
you just never want to leave.
You haven't played Majora's Mask?
No, I have not played. I was talking to my buddies about this the other day. I haven't played that one.
Dude.
I want to because I know it's amazing, but it's the Umbreon of the Zelda games. You know what I mean? Like it's the emo kid of the Zelda games.
Totally. I was going to say it's such a sad boy game. It's so fucking good though. Like put on your bucket hat and like drink some lean.
I'm
before
getting my wallet chain back out.
Yeah.
Before I hop into this one.
Go hit the Hot Topic and then play Majora's Mask. No, Majora's Mask is fucking great. I love that game. I haven't replayed it in years, probably like a decade now, but that's really good. Did you say Breath of the Wild in your list of ones you have played, or?
Oh, I didn't say that, but that is one that I've played.
Breath of the Wild is also very good, obviously.
Yeah.
I just started messing around with Minish Cap, which I never played. So there's that, and I never played the story of Oracle of Seasons. Oracle
of Seasons, Oracle of Ages.
Yeah. I never played those ones either. So I want to go back in my quest to kind of like fill in all the gaps of good games that I never played back in the day. Those are definitely on the list.
Yeah. Same. Trying to do the same kind of thing where I could feel there's this every time you guys start talking about something, I'm like, God, I have not played that. Although in my defense, I was like 6 when it came out, so I have an excuse to some extent. But I'm trying to work my way back, like you, Jeremy. I'm trying to get back into it.
Yeah, dude. There's like I just it's worth saying that, like, not to harp too hard on the thing that I quoted Lilith as or paraphrased Lilith as saying earlier. But like there really are like. There are things about older games that when you go back and play them feel special and unique in a way that it's not just a it's not just a like lower fidelity version of a contemporary game. Like it really does feel in the same way that when you go back and watch a movie from like the 50s or the 60s, it has like kind of its own unique flavor. It's not that we've evolved past that and continually improved things. There are certain design sensibilities and like styles of writing and styles of narrative and things like that that are, you know, like that are still worth experiencing, that still have merit, and that you know, I mean, there are contemporary JRPGs that I've played and enjoyed as well, but yeah, I don't know. There's like something special about it. I also feel like there's like for Xenogears in particular, but I think this ripples out to a lot of different kind of like franchises. When they start doing more titles within that same world, even if they're made by the original people who made like that title, like the Xenosaga and Xenoblade stuff, that I can't remember the name of the studio who makes those games now, but that studio was started by the folks who made Xenogears originally under Squaresoft. There is something special about playing someone's like original unique vision at the start of it or something. Like I think that the more you're kind of like responding to a previous entry in like a franchise or a series or something, the farther you get away from the like weird kind of like radical creative freedom of someone being like, all right, we need to make a world out of whole cloth. And yeah, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like it almost has the same energy as when there's like a remake or something where they're responding to the original thing and trying to like bring that energy into a new age rather than just like create something radically new. So yeah, I don't know. I definitely want to play the other Xeno games as well, because I haven't played them enough to like weigh in if that's how they feel or whatever. But it's there's something special about just like playing the first thing in this like person's unique vision that they just ripped out of the ether.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Like I'm a huge fan of the God of War games, which I'm excited for Ragnarok now. But I played those games when I was a kid. I hadn't played them for a really long time. And then the new God of War came out and I went to play it. And I was like, you know what? I don't think I'm doing this right. I don't think I remember what it was like to play a God of War game and then come into this new one that's kind of trying to capture the same energy and the same gameplay ideas. So I went back and I played the whole series all the way through and then played the new God of War from 2018. And you can like really feel the way that design comes throughout the series. Because when I first hopped into God of War 2018, I kind of just ran through. Like I did everything. I at the tutorial, I ran right to the end of it. I didn't really stop to look around. But I played the old God of Wars again, and I was like, oh, this whole game is about exploring and finding pickups and upgrades and health and money and everything. Well, not really money, but like just stuff that you need to have more power and have more health. And then I was like, oh shit, I should do this in God of War 2018. And you're like, oh, like these design principles come through. But I hadn't played a game like that in 10 years. So hopping into the new God of War, I played it like I would play Horizon, or I played it like I would play, Uncharted, where you just like you run through it because maybe there's stuff to find, but it's not going to be like an upgrade. It's going to be like a trophy or something, right? So yeah, I totally agree that there's this like need to go back and try older games. And also maybe the biggest reason for me is just the visual clutter and the noise. I have such a hard time playing Horizon Forbidden West for a lot of reasons, but I think the biggest one is just how fucking cluttered it is visually. Like it's fun to play. I love it. It's a beautiful game, but also it can be a little exhausting to look at sometimes. So hopping into something like Ratchet and Clank and being like, oh, this boulder has 9 polygons. Like, this is great. I can tell exactly what's going on. There's something almost relaxing to the eyes about playing an older game and the way that it's meant to be played. Like you were saying, Frank, with playing Crimson Skies.
Crimson Skies is great because like, yeah, you're the first level or the main hub. It's like an island. So there's like almost like a pirate's cove in the center, but all you see beyond you is just like gorgeous sea and a gorgeous skies and then other planes coming in. Dynasty Warriors 4, like Silent Hill, has this giant fog everywhere. So there'll be like 10, and the Xbox version is more powerful than the PS2 version, but even still, there is fog. You'll have like
some glasses and a doctor's coat for that one.
Yeah, Digital Foundry of fucking 2004. You'll have like 10, and honestly, this is why I like the older Dynasty Warriors games. Current ones, Warriors or Roshi or whatever, like there's a million of them. They'll put 2,000 enemies on a map, and like you'll hit square and kill 50 people. It's like, it doesn't mean anything. In the older Dynasty Warriors games, there's 10 soldiers and they'll fuck you up. Like, it's kind of intimidating. It feels way more aggressive and like you really have to manage yourself. Whereas the newer ones, like, oh, it's so over the top. So there's something kind of cool and like, I don't know, scrappy and lean and like about playing the older ones. But yeah, having that fog, and again, like with Silent Hill, just like it is kind of relaxing. Just and again, not having like overwhelming UI or objectives or side quests or just too many systems in a game is it's kind of pure.
Yeah,
Love it.
Also, I just to follow up on last week's podcast, I finished Silent Hill, and
Nice.
It's so good. It's like
Yeah.
such a good game. I enjoyed it so much. I had to go capture footage of it yesterday for like 5 minutes, and I was like, I could just play this whole game again right
You're
now.
like, oops, I recorded 2 hours.
Oops, I
Whoopsie
played the
daisy.
entire. Oh, we needed all of the endings, right?
Can I build this?
Yeah, no, it's just like God, it's good. I might play Silent Hill 2 now. I've heard. That
I was gonna
it's
say
very
you
good
got
as
to
well.
move on to Silent Hill 2. Yeah.
Yeah, when does that series get less good? Is it three?
I really
is not
like
great,
3 because
right?
3 is rad because it's a direct sequel to
okay.
1. So that's also kind of weird where it's like 2 is the
shit.
masterpiece and it's its own thing, but 3 is dope if you've played 1. So when I went through all that, revisited the Silent Hill games like a decade ago, I played them all like in a month. So it was really cool going from 1 to 2 to 3. But yeah, 3 is a sequel to 1. 3 also has like crazy enemy designs like the bunny rabbit things. So I like 3. I can't like I can understand criticism where it's like it's hard to top 2, but I think 3 is dope. 4 I played like 2 years ago. Oh my god, I think that game sucks. Like it's rough. It's called Silent Hill 4: The Room, and the premise is like you're locked in your apartment. Like it has a cool premise. You're locked in your apartment, but there's a hole in your apartment, and every time you go through the hole, you end up somewhere different, and you're always connecting back to your apartment building, and like it's kind of creepy, but there's just so much backtracking. And every time you're in your apartment, it's in first person mode. And there's like ghosts that will attack you in your apartment. There's also an NPC that will follow you around. And the worse you do at the game, like the more damage you take, the more just things you mess up, your NPC will get bloodier and bloodier. So by the, like, not even like halfway through the game, my NPC companion looked like a corpse. I was like, oh, I'm already getting the bad ending. I'm screwed. Like I can't do anything. So Silent Hill 4: The Room was like, it was like a miserable experience, but it's like I gotta beat this. I used a strategy guide, but 1 through 3 I think still hold up as like excellent.
Cool. I'll probably play at least 1 through 3. I don't tell me which game he appears in because I want to be surprised, but I was familiar with the design of Pyramid Head, obviously, right? And so the whole time I'm playing Silent Hill 1, I'm like, oh, here he comes. Here's Pyramid Head.
Where is this fucker?
Any minute now, he's
no.
popping up, dude. Like it was, I was streaming it to someone, and I kept being like, all right, no, this I know. When we get to the basement of the hospital, Pyramid Head's waiting down there. I fucking know it, dude. And then the
That's so
credits
funny.
roll, and I was like, oh
That's awesome.
shit, all right.
That's how they get you.
It's like when you're watching the first Jason movie. You're like, where the
Yeah.
fuck is Jason?
Yeah, he's got to be somewhere
Friday
around
13th.
here, dude.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man.
Real quick before we get to emails, speaking of games that have me just playing them because I enjoyed them, Returnal. Did you guys play this one at all? Did you check this one out from last year?
I played it like the first month it was out, but I dropped it because like it holds before they patched it would hold your system hostage, where it's like, no, you can't play. I play Fortnite almost every day with friends, but I'd be in the middle of a Returnal run that's like 3 hours, and it's like, well, I have to either beat this or die before I can switch games, and so I didn't touch it. But now I want to hear about it now because maybe I'll come back to it.
Yeah, so Returnal is a third-person action shooter roguelike from Housemarque, studio in Finland. I've been kicking around since like 95, doing a lot of cool things, made a lot of cool games. Resogun, Nex Machina. That was a lot of fun. I like playing that one. But they make these cool sort of bullet hell games, and this is a third-person shooter bullet hell game. Despite it being that, though, it does have a very intricate story. There's a lot of like cool stuff going on. There's like this haunted house vibe that you kind of go through a couple of times, which is interesting in a roguelike, especially in a bullet hell, for it to have such an interesting and intriguing narrative. But your goal is to go around and shoot aliens to figure out what's going on this world that you crash landed onto. But you didn't just crash land on here. You're stuck here because it's stuck in a time loop. Love me a good time loop story, baby. It's my favorite. But to what you were saying there, Frank, about the issue with the cycles is what they call it. Yeah, they do have a suspend system now. And I was curious to check it out last year. It came out in April last year, which feels like a million years ago. But I checked it out now because it's on that PlayStation Plus thing I was talking about last week. And I mean, yeah, this is amazing, man. It feels fun to move around in. It feels fun to shoot in. It's super tight. But yeah, that cycle thing, I can't even imagine. So because it's a roguelike, when you die, you go back to the start. But your run also ends if you close the game, like Frank was saying. But the way that they solve that now is you can suspend your save like on the cloud. So if you have an internet connection, it'll upload it or something like that. So you can hop out and play other games. Now, if this was on the Xbox Series X or Series S, you could just use Quick Resume. Get on it, Phil. Purchase them back from PlayStation. Yeah, but I mean, if it wasn't for that feature, I bet I would be fucking furious. Because there are points in this game where you will be playing for a single run for 2 hours at times, running around trying to get all the resources, getting all the things you need, especially in the early game where they're kind of like giving you new equipment and giving you unlocks. It's still pretty challenging, but like you're able to play it for 2 hours straight. So it's kind of like, it's not that bad, how bad could it be? But then, yeah, your friend asks you to play Fortnite or you have something else to do with your time on your PlayStation. And all of a sudden you're like, shit, I have to close it. But now you're good. Now you can just suspend it. Although it actually isn't very reliable. I mean, I don't want to act like I have the greatest internet connection on the planet. You guys know. But when you try to suspend the cycle, if it doesn't do it properly, you just completely lose whatever you were doing anyways. So it's still kind of hit or miss. I think it's worth checking out. I finished it in like 12 hours, even though it's supposed to take 18, I think is what they say on how long to beat. I don't know. I'm not trying to brag today or anything, but I'm beating games pretty quick. I'm doing first is Cuphead. Now it's this hard
busting
game.
Through Cuphead, busting through Returnal. Fuck
yeah,
you.
man. Do you know there's a run button in all these games, dude? That's how I get through them so quickly.
Oh, that would actually help a lot. I didn't know that.
You didn't think?
Wow.
See? Come on.
Holy shit.
Yeah, no, it's a good time though. I think you guys should check it out if you're into that kind of thing. But the reason that I wanted to check it out, a big part of it anyways, a couple weeks ago on this podcast, on the one that's patron exclusive, where we talked about everything that was shown off at Key 3, I made a point about how AAA games are kind of picking up these indie game ideas, roguelikes and stuff like that, cards, everything has cards. But something I noticed while I was watching a lot of those trailers, especially Ubisoft the week after Key 3 ended, they showed off that there's this new roguelike game that's coming to Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So it's like a roguelike mode in Assassin's Creed Valhalla where you play as Eivor and you're kind of just killing stuff in like sequence and you have one life and you get upgrades and equipment and everything. And I mean, that's a neat idea. I like that kind of shit. I like when AAA games take these ideas and kind of run with them. What would it look like if this thing had money? I mean, that's Deathloop, right? Is sort of the same kind of thing where you die and you go back to the start, and after you've died a certain number of times, so you have to restart your run, and there's like narrative purpose to it. And there was that Moon Shot DLC for
Moon
Prey.
Crash.
Moon
Yeah.
Crash.
That
Thank
rules.
you.
Yeah.
I haven't checked that one out yet, but I really need to because I know it's kind of the basis for Deathloop. And then today, when we're recording this on Wednesday, they announced there's a Gwent DLC or like spin-off game that they're making that's a roguelike about the first person that made a Witcher, like the original person that made a Witcher. I don't know. I love these games, these AAA studios taking this idea and going, what if we gave a bunch of money to a roguelike concept? And it's great. It's always fun.
Yeah.
Always have someone. Do you guys like that kind of stuff? Are you into that or no?
Yeah, I think Deathloop is a really good example of it done right, because I think it's basically like taking those design sensibilities and elevating them, like taking them further. So like in many ways, designing a roguelike, if you're like a solo dev or indie dev team or whatever, is helpful because it is a constraint. It is a instead of a game that takes like 40 hours to go through all of these different worlds or whatever, it's you're kind of spending 40 hours going through the same whatever, like 1 to 2 hour experience until you master it. But Deathloop takes that and has like a more expansive story that incorporates the looping and stuff. Like it sounds like Returnal does as well, which I haven't played, but I'd like to. The $70 price tag when it first came out turned me off a little bit because I felt like if I bought it and didn't like it, it would be like making a bad stock purchase. Like I'd have that like pit in my stomach that I made a poor choice in life.
This is depreciating in value every minute that I own it. Shit.
Exactly. As soon as I unwrap the box, it's plummeting. But yeah, no, I think that there is an interesting kind of like interchange between like indie ideas and AAA devs. I'd like to see more of it. Should I pick up Returnal? Is Returnal really good? I was interested in it.
Yeah.
Is it on PS Plus now, or part of like the PS5 like library? I could be
It's
totally...
part of the PlayStation Plus.
Yeah.
I don't think it's part of the Classics collection or the whatever the hell, the PS Plus collection. That's what you're talking about, right? Where you get games if you have PlayStation Plus. I don't think it's part of that. I think you have to have premium or extra.
Yeah, so maybe it's one of the things. Yeah, what's like did they get a reduced price on like the thing if you buy it regularly now? I
I
wonder.
think so. Yeah, it's got to be like closer to $50 if you buy it digitally, I would guess.
And then I still haven't tried it, but isn't there like co-op mode now? Because I remember there was like a major
is.
patch.
Yeah, there was a huge patch that they put out a little earlier, either this year or at the end of last year, where it added a tower, like an endless tower.
Ooh.
Yeah, so there's an endless mode that you can play now, and there is co-op. Yeah, I did a little bit of that with my buddy Jake, and we had a good time with that. It's like surprisingly smooth. It's not too challenging. Like they ramp it up a little bit, but it's not insane or anything. Like it's not like Cuphead where they add a ton of stuff on to make the boss a lot harder or like increase their health or anything. It seems like it's just how often they're shooting and that sort of stuff. Their health's a little bit higher, but it's not anything too different from when I was playing solo. But yeah, the co-op is a really good time. The endless mode's a really good time. I think you should check out Returnal if you like third-person shooters, if you like roguelikes, if you like bullet hells, and again, if you like a good story, if you like a solid,
I like all those things.
Solid story. Yeah, so
all those things are good.
The
You're gonna
aesthetic is
enjoy it.
also dope. It's got a lot of like strong H.R. Geiger, like OG Alien and like Prometheus. And like I feel
Very.
like is it the place you save, but it has like the Junji Ito like walk into the hole. Like I don't know, like
Oh, nice.
every element of the game just rules. Like it's like that was the bummer. It's like
Yeah.
I really like this game. It's just that I just don't have that kind of time. But yeah, I think it's definitely worth coming back to.
All right, it's email time. I think this first one here is for Frank.
Yeah, so on Discord we had JR Med. There was an image that went viral like a few weeks ago of like the German title for Ocarina of Time, which has been debunked, but I'll still indulge it. So there's an image. It's The Legend of Zelda Das Fluten Duten, but they said to say it in the Street Fighter voice. So the ongoing challenge now is we're what was it originally? It's like Ken's thing is like it's like Tetsuka Fruken. Which I think is his
It's funny every time. It never stops being
yeah,
funny.
it's this tornado kick. Maybe it sounds German. So if Ken added an Ocarina of Time moveset, it would be Das Fluten Duten.
Nice.
There you go.
The
Yeah,
Germans are
Das
going to love
Fluten
this.
That was everything I
Das
hoped it would
Fluten
be.
Duten. So
Yeah.
there you go.
That was great. Thank you,
Thank you,
JR
JR
Med,
Med.
for asking for that. This is going to be a new
Yeah.
thing. It should be a new segment.
Yeah, just things that sound like Street Fighter. Yeah, Street Fighter names. I hope again Street Fighter 6 or whatever, adding the commentary mode. Let's do it.
Yeah, if you got any more funny things you want Frank to yell on the podcast, it's podcast@noclip.video. You can send us an email. You can hop in the Discord, become a patron, and leave them in there as a podcast questions channel. You can leave them in there. Funny things for Frank to yell on the pod. That should be the whole last 5 minutes of this. It's just you yelling phrases. We do have some other things here, though. Less yelling involved. From Daniel sends us an email. Hi, Noclip. I'm a Patreon supporter and have been really enjoying the podcast. I look forward to it every Friday as a nice end to the week during my morning run. I'm glad we can be there for you while you're out getting your jog in. In the recent episode, you had joked about AI writing comedy, and well, it's already happened. And they sent us a link to it's Jerry Seinfeld run through GPT-3, and then like a AI, might be GPT-3 as well, that was trained on Jerry Seinfeld's voice, and they're doing a whole like 3-4 minute bit on cat food.
Oh my god.
It's really stupid. It's like not funny, so it is a great example of a Jerry Seinfeld stand-up bit. But
Nailed it.
Yeah, love him. Big fan of Seinfeld. Yeah. So, but they go on to say it's surprisingly accurate, although the delivery is in the uncanny valley for sure, and you can hear it, the awkward pauses. On the topic of reconciling different graphic qualities with Silent Hill, which we talked about last week, Halo did this with the Master Chief Collection, where you could switch back to the original graphics at the press of a button. Konami could release an updated Silent Hill with modern graphics, but allow players to switch back to the OG graphics with the press of a button. A lot of games are doing that now, right? A lot of classic games have that kind of thing. Grim Fandango had that, where you could like turn off the new graphics, and not that it changed a whole lot. It was just kind of higher res models and textures and stuff, but I like that stuff. And the one big question that they've had at the end here is, has anyone watched Love, Death, and Robots on Netflix? If so, what are your thoughts, and which episode would you like to see become a game?
I've only seen one episode of it. I have some friends that really like it. I thought it was very like, I like the idea of it. It's like an anthology series where every episode is like a different story, different art style. But I haven't seen that much of it. Have you guys?
No,
seen
I just watched the first episode and like it didn't grab me. Yeah, I don't know. And again, it's with anthology shows. Like, if the first episode doesn't click with you, it's like it's tough to judge. But it also, like, I wasn't compelled to watch more. So maybe I need like a list of like what are like the 5 shorts to watch.
What are the hitters? What are the number ones?
Because doesn't David Fincher produce that or something? I think that it was like it's either David Fincher or Ridley Scott. Like, someone's name was attached to it. But the first episode was like, it was okay. I felt like whatever episode I saw, it gave me like there was this old Capcom. I don't know if Capcom published it. There was this old game from like 2013 called Remember Me. Did anyone ever play that?
Don't nod. Yeah,
and it actually, like, the game was okay, but it had a really cool like cyberpunk aesthetic. Like, it wasn't over the top cyberpunk, but it was just kind of like almost like Fifth Element future. Just like, oh, this is kind of weird and funky. And I felt like that's what the aesthetic was. And then that's also what that upcoming Annapurna cat game. There's like some game coming out soon,
right?
Yeah, where you play I think that's like this month maybe or next month. Where
this month.
You play a cat in a future city. So I'm just inventing Love, Death, and Robot. Like, I want that. I'm gonna play that. That give me some of that. That looks good.
Yeah, they should go back and retroactively make an episode of Love, Death, and Robots about a cat so that we could say that this worked. Yeah, I mean, I've watched some of the show. I've watched most of the first season. It's tough. There's a lot of like concepts in that I wish they kind of fleshed out more. Apparently the latest season has a second episode that's a follow-up to the first one that you guys probably saw with those little aliens kind of walking around being dicks to each other. There is one episode that's like yogurt becomes sentient and takes over the world, and everyone, and they're super benevolent leaders, and then they leave the earth, and that's the whole bit. Yeah.
What? Are you sure this isn't an episode of Rick and Morty?
You know what? It felt like one. And I'm pretty sure, I don't know what the voice actor's name is, but the guy who like is narrating it is the person who plays the brain on Pinky and the Brain, I feel like.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Doing their best Orson Welles impersonation. Yeah, really weird show. Like you were saying, Frank, it's kind of hard to know with an anthology if the first episode's kind of crap, but the rest of it's good. I mean, is that the first episode's fault? Is that like the fault of anthologies? I don't know, but it's a good show. It's worth giving it another shot. And they're short episodes, right? Everything's like 7 to 12 minutes. So worst case scenario, you lost a couple minutes of your life.
Daniel, give us, if you're on the Discord and listening to this, pop in and give us like a sampler.
Yes.
Like top 2 or 3 episodes to kind of get us into it.
We'd appreciate that for sure. Podcast at noclip.video. Another question here. Frank, you want to read this one from Asmund?
Yeah, from Asmund and from Norway says, with Game Pass, PlayStation Plus, and all the Netflixes out there, are you going to discover any new B games or movies? Before in the olden days, you went to the store and you bought something that looked cool and it turned out to be a B game, but you did not have the money to get a new game for 2 months, so you had to play it and love it. You change the channels on TV to find something to watch, but then you find Demolition Man, the ultimate B movie, and nothing else to watch on other channels. Now with all the choices, are you going to watch and play all those cheesy B games and movies? Or are you going to stop playing them after a short time and find something better because you can easily? Asmund from Norway.
Yeah, that's tough. I think like I look at these streaming services and I look at these like PS Plus and Game Pass as renting. Now, I mean, we've talked about that like a million times on this podcast, especially you, Frank. You're a big Game Pass enthusiast. It's kind of the place to go. And I feel like Game Pass especially is the home of B games. How many games have I played on Game Pass that are kind of like, I wasn't going to buy this, but it's really good. It's the TV channel switching. You know, every game I've played on Game Pass has been my Demolition Man. So, I mean, that's kind of how I feel about it. I don't know. I feel like I'm playing more B games because of these things than anything else. What about you guys?
Yeah, I booted up my Game Pass, or sorry, I booted up my
Game Pass.
I booted up my Game Pass box to see, and yeah, my game library is just filled with like, again, B games. It's not, there's nothing that's like, oh my God, when I'm on like a hike, like I need to go home and play this, but I turn it on and it's like, I guess I could play Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb. I guess I'll play Destroy All Humans. And it's not a knock on any of these games, or even, but it's just like, but in terms of stuff discovering, like Sniper Elite 5 is still a game like, oh, I want to beat that game. Complete like, and that's something I would have never paid full price for. I would have never like touched, like these days, like I would have never bought that. I don't think anyone would ever have gifted it to me. I would have never, that game would have never entered my zone unless by some like off chance we would have covered on Noclip. Like, so Sniper Elite 5 is a gem that I totally fell in love with. Dante's Inferno is on Game Pass, and that's a game of, like, speaking of God of War, that's a game I've always wanted to play, so that's one I might go through. But yeah, I treat Game Pass, you're right, it is like flipping through channels or just trying to find something. And if it strikes me, I'll be charmed. But yeah, I don't know, sometimes I got to be in that mood. Like, I was talking earlier when I was going through old Xbox games where it's like, I need to treat video games sometimes like going to the arcade or being a kid, where it's like, I'm just going to swap games and play what I feel like playing. Yeah, I don't like delete games quickly. Like, I'll download something and I'll give it like 2 or 3 shots before dropping it. So I still, like, I load up my Game Pass and it's like, yeah, I could play any one of these, and so I remain hopeful.
Yeah, there's there's a website called SNES Party that is a online Super Nintendo emulator, and so if you have a clutch of legally obtained Super Nintendo ROMs that you ripped from your cartridges, as I did because I am a law-abiding citizen, what I've been doing is hanging out with friends on a Discord call and doing like a SNES variety night. So we'll just load up like 10 Super Nintendo games and then just, pop one in, play it a little bit, and then play for 5-10 minutes, and if it's bad, just move on. So there was like a weird kaiju fighting game. I think was it called King of Monsters?
Oh yeah.
That one was like,
that's a classic.
Yeah, so we played that, and then like also checked out some Japan exclusive Super Famicom games that I never got. So there was one called Gunpuru, which I couldn't find an English translation for it. There's an English patch I've since found, but we were just messing around in Japanese. But it's like it's like if Link to the Past was in the Old West, but with like kind of the weird Earthbound, like Americana cartoon aesthetic. But yeah, so I don't know. There's something to be said for just like loading up a bunch of old weird games with your homies and seeing what's good.
Totally, yeah. Trying stuff. It's the time to do it. Lots of opportunities.
I love the new thing. Trying stuff is the new thing.
Cool kids are doing.
You said it.
But thank you so much for all the emails, everyone. I appreciate it. If you want to send in more, you want to let us know what Xbox games you're enjoying, let Frank in on your own journey through the library, podcast at noclip.video, or you can send us anything, any questions, any comments, whatever you want. We love them. We love getting them. That's been the podcast, though. Thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you being here. Lots of new stuff that we've put out last month. Lots of new stuff coming later this month. Once Danny gets back, he's kind of the arbiter of putting things out for Noclip. So, if you're waiting for things that aren't the podcast, once he's back, we'll have lots of cool stuff coming out. In the meantime, though, you can head on over to Patreon, listen to extended interviews we've got from Tim Kaine, Leonard Boyarsky, Carrie Patel, Darren Korb. There's extended versions of the developer breakdown for Unpacking and Tunic. And while you're over at Patreon, you can toss us a little bit of money, maybe even a little more. Who knows? Whatever you feel like doing. We just appreciate your support regardless. If you want to keep up with what's going on at Noclip, you can follow us on Twitter at NoclipVideo. Follow me on Twitter at Garasha. He's Frank Howley at Frank Howley. And Jeremy can be found at Jeremy B. Jane. Watch the docs on YouTube, youtube.com/NoclipVideo. And, you're already listening to the podcast, so keep doing that, and we'll keep appreciating you being here. Thank you so much for listening. Guys, what are we doing? What's going on?
Frank, you go first because I have a treat for anyone who's still listening.
Yeah, it's where I guess I was like in a small vacation for Anime Expo, so now the next several days is like work. But all cool stuff. Again, a lot of fun projects in Noclip. I also went to the comic book shop and I've got like 6 different Spawn comics I'm backed up on, and so I'm gonna read. Oh, I picked up a book by Murakami, What We Talk About When We Talk About Running. And like, Jeremy, I don't know if you've read this, but this feels like a book that you would like. I started reading it, and it's like it's all about writing and the creative process. It has nothing to do with running. Like,
oh, cool!
Oh, awesome!
I'm excited. I'll talk about more, but like, I opened it up, and already there's like a proverb or like a mantra that's like, pain is inevitable, but suffering isn't. And it's like, oh my god, yes! Like, so I'm gonna go run and
that fucking rules.
It's like. It's so fucking dope. I don't know. I just started reading it, but what we talk about when we talk about running, I'm going to read more of that, and then maybe I'll give a bigger review. But yeah, it's like already just filled with like juicy quotes and philosophy, and like, oh, this is my soul needs this.
Nice.
That sounds cool. I've never read any Murakami, but that sounds super. Mm-hmm. Maybe that'll be my entry point. I, on the other hand, will be continuing the edit on Bloodborne PSX. It's going really good. I'm going to try to get it pretty close this week so that when Danny comes back, we can polish it off and put it in your eyeballs. I do have a special treat for everyone. So I AI generated as we were hanging out a 1-star negative Yelp review for a steakhouse written by Edgar Allan Poe. So I'd like to read that.
Please.
The Raven Steakhouse is a dark and dreary place, fit only for those who enjoy the company of corpses. The steaks are tough and tasteless, and the atmosphere is more reminiscent of a funeral than a meal. I would not recommend this place to anyone. In addition to the terrible food, the service at the Raven Steakhouse is abysmal. Our waiter was a surly, uneducated man who clearly did not want to be there. He was slow to take our orders and even slower to bring our food. When the food finally arrived, it was cold and burnt. We had to send it back, and it took forever for the kitchen to correct the order. And then he just says that they were frustrated, but that's the end. But I the fact that he called the waiter a surly and uneducated man is like such a Edgar Allan Poe burn.
Oh, that's great, man. We should start doing that. I like these reviews
Anyway,
at the end.
yeah. I know. Yeah, I might like do a GPT-3 generation for the end of every pod or something. They're really funny.
Now I want to hear like Stephen King. I want to hear a Stephen King version of that. Like,
Ooh.
yeah.
Here, we can let me generate one and we can cut
Okay.
this if it doesn't turn out good. Okay. A Stephen King. Oh no, wait. Okay.
Can you?
Stephen,
Is it possible to do a Stephen King 1-star Yelp review of
Oh,
GameStop?
please.
Yeah,
That's
hell
perfect.
yeah. One star.
let me
Yelp.
double- I believe
is
so.
Stephen King with a PH?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think so. Stephen King's 1-star Yelp review for
Fucking
GameStop.
God.
Okay, let's see what this yields. I added in the style of Stephen King.
There you go. That'll do it.
he called the employees surly and unhelpful. Is this
Why
like
is everyone surly?
why is everyone surly? Every author just calls people surly. All right,
Yeah.
failed experiment. Well, I'll prepare one next time. Sometimes you gotta coax the AI into
massage
doing
it in.
comedy. You can't just expect it to be funny.
I
Yeah,
love
exactly.
Stephen King, and like it's. I think it's been a few months. The last Stephen King book I read was Billy Summers, which was fantastic, and before that was 11/23/60, 11/22/63, the JFK one, and it's like it's been a few months, and it's like, all right, I think I need to scoop a new Stephen King.
They adapted that into a show, right? James Franco.
Yeah, and
Unfortunately.
I started watching it. I was so bummed. It's like too hokey. It's way too. It's James Franco being like, "Hey, this 5 cents for a milkshake. Get out of here." It's like this sucks. I did not like it. The book was fantastic, but like the show was like way too hokey, and it bummed me out.
Damn.
Anyways, fantastic chatting with you all. Seriously, thank you, and thank you to everyone who listens and supports us. Yeah, man, Noclip's kicking ass. It's the summer of gaming continues.
Summer of games, baby. It's the summer of George of games.
It's a Serenity now, baby. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Goodbye.